Many of you may know Croatia from the feats of the last Soccer World Cup. And indeed, it's a country which punches above its weight in many sporting fields. For some, though, the contribution of Croatian migrants to Tasmania may be less well known. Croatians were, in fact, a major group in the era of post-war mass migration from Europe to Australia, and Tasmania was certainly a part of that, with the construction of the big hydroelectric projects in the 50s and 60s employing thousands of migrant workers from Croatia and other European countries. But Croatians have left their mark in so many other ways on Tasmanian society. And to find out more about Croatia and the Croatian community in Tasmania, I couldn't be speaking to someone better than Davor, who's been a radio announcer on the local Croatian-language radio and has been an active participant in the Croatian community in different roles. He's also a fountain of information about Croatian history and culture. And I'm very grateful that he's agreed to share more of his story of coming to and living in Tasmania. And I hope you, dear listeners, will join me to learn more about Davor and his story.
I had no idea I was going to come to Tasmania. As a 15 years old boy, my parents decided to move. My family were already here. Bulk of my father's brothers were in Ballarat, Victoria, and it was a logical choice for them to come. But living under socialist communism, Tito's regime, it was a wise thing for my father not to talk, not to tell anyone, simply, zip up, so to speak, and moved to Italy, and then from Italy straight to Australia. That's how we ended up here, and my mother's brother was here in Hobart. So we came to visit him from Victoria. The rest is history.
And what time was that?
That was in late 66,
okay.
When we arrived here.
And was it an easy matter to get out of the former Yugoslavia? Or?
No, not at all. Generally speaking, you had to be sponsored by someone, and the system, which is the Communist Party membership, decided whether you are perhaps a threat to them or whether you were the keeping there for whatever they needed you for, or alternatively you were a burden, which means you are non-productive, you are not part of the system, and they decided to use, if I can use the word, former citizens of the day, simply to go outside and send the currency back to the communist system. And that's how they managed to cover their debt, to cover whatever they needed. Foreign currency, particularly dollars, were highly sought after by them always. That was the primary reason why diaspora was allowed to sort of go after 66, I think, around the period that Tito opened up the borders, and many went to Germany as a Gastarbeiter, they call them guest workers, and they ended up staying there today, to this very day actually, some of them. So consequently, part of Croatia became Mercedes land, as we call it now, the dumping ground from the second-hand German cars.
How did your father get out of Yugoslavia then?
He basically followed his brothers, if I can use the word, go to Italy, where most of my uncles ended up immediately after the war, coming from a city called Zadar, where we were occupied by Mussolini's forces. And that wasn't what we really wanted. But again, in hindsight, and I wasn't born then, but what I can see and what I could hear from people who lived under that regime of fascism, if you like, for them was better due to the very reason they were trying to win the people over. Mm-hmm. So they were giving them a sweetener, incentive, encouragement to accept them. But people being people, as if I can quote or paraquote my grandparents and my grandfather, he used to say, they're all occupiers, they're all the same to me. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter whether they're Germans, Italians, Hungarians, Yugoslavs, as they call them, so They're all here because they're occupiers, not because they want something. Mother comes from the island Ugljan, which would be equivalent to our eastern shore. You can imagine that. Pretty much mile from the Zadar, Zadar, and Zadar was under Italian occupation. Around, if you were to draw a circular border around it, probably about 7 kilometres, that was Italian territory. But the sea, coast below, mile, channel literally, that actually wasn't. That was half Yugoslav, half Italian.
Right.
So that was a tricky one. And at night, according to my mother and people who lived, I didn't live it, so I can't confirm that that's how it was. But they used to walk along the foreshore and the big spotlights, floodlights, military be shining at them, trying to see what sort of activity is going on. So there was another way of interrogating people, frightening them, and reality, that's the way it is.
What are your memories of Zadar when you were growing up?
Oh, they're very strong memories. It's something that I will never forget. Zadar is an ancient city, very, very old, multi-layers to it, right back to ancient Yadri, which is the people of the, if you like indigenous people in Australia, to the arrival of Slavs who came down from the northern, and some came from the south. So it's a multi-culture, multi-gene pool, if you like, and we constitute, genetically speaking, many layers. Yeah. Romans were there, ancient Greeks used to trade.
And I should explain, it's on the
coast, yes. If you like, it's a little bit like Hobart, sort of city equivalent, give or take, except the age.
Did you go to school in Zadar?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I finished my high school there. I did my high school, actually, and at the last week we left just at the high school, you know. Yeah, I always had a good memory, particularly Zadar. For me, we are fanatical basketball city. We've never, the irony is Croatians are very good at soccer, demographically speaking, for 4 and a bit of a million people that they have currently. As you can see, we managed to be second in the world. Things have changed so much, but they are actually jumping out of their skin to become Westerners, as we say. You know, they're trying to be more Pope than the Pope himself, if you like. You know, that's what they are. They all seem to be, they want to forget what their background is and move on into the Western side, even though a lot of them actually lived it previously. Even though they had a Tito's regime, everyone was always watching American movies. Everyone was always watching American or listening to American music. So I mean, I knew about. I mean, Chuck Berry. I knew that under Tito. We knew about that. You know, we knew about the twist and this and that and movies, Hollywood. And the more they say, no, that's bad for you, the more you want it. You know.
Yeah. What were your sort of first memories or first impressions of Tasmania?
They were mixed, very mixed. First days in school, having a uniform, which we didn't have uniform, first of all. We didn't, obviously. We came from a so-called mixed school from day one. In school, I found it odd and strange that we would sort of be divided into the two groups, boys and girls, always constantly, whereas that wasn't a policy of the day. I must give socialists, communists there a really plus, because I always found it strange that we, you know, sort of somehow boys were always looking at girls, strange girls, you know. To me, it was perfectly normal, because in the classroom we actually even encouraged by the teachers of the day to sit boy, girl, rather than two girls together, two boys together. Yep. Segregation, if you like. And that simply didn't exist, because we never had a private school. It was a state-sponsored with the idea that you are better off to be integrated. And I tend to agree back in hindsight, because I never had an issue when it came to female. I found that sometimes very strange when somebody used to say to me later on, when I grew up, he said, you're a male chauvinist. And I really couldn't see why you calling me chauvinist. I've always treated girls as girls. That's it. I mean, I didn't want to treat them any other way, because that's the way I was brought up, and that was normal, absolutely normal for me. And so there were a couple of things. And that actually, uniform, I liked actually the idea of uniform. Uniform doesn't discriminate. That's one good thing about it.
Yeah.
That's a plus, definitely, from my perspective. Because under socialism, without a uniform, you can differentiate who's wealthier, who's not, even though this is a socialism.
Yeah.
Because you can see little tricklets being shown off. Hey, I've got more than you. Mine is worth X amount of dollars, because people in socialism used to go to Italy and buy expensive Western things and come back and show off naturally.
Yeah.
And those particularly later on who had a parent who worked as a, as we say, Gastarbeiter, which is a guest worker in Germany, would come home and he would buy his son a bicycle, expensive jeans in those days where American jeans were sort of sought after highly. Of course, you go to school with those kind of things. Hey, where the hell did you get that from? You can imagine, in China, under Mao Zedong, walking around with American Wranglers or Levi's and that kind of thing. That's no. It's, comrade, you shall wear the denim uniform like everyone else. That's where you can see the difference, obviously. So that's just one example.
Yeah.
But there are many others.
That's interesting, even a little bit ironic, I suppose.
It is. You take it for granted, and some of the things I immediately did notice the difference being the assembling, the God Save the Queen immediately in school. There was a sort of bit of a shock, wake-up shock. I didn't object to it, to be honest with you. When you grow up in the Iron Curtain or under that what we call a barrier between the West and the East. Yes, I mean, when you're young, it's sort of hard to comprehend all that. But you start comparing quick smart because suddenly when you're exposed to one, all for the early stages of your life, and suddenly you come into another, and then sometimes you have to actually ask yourself or pinch yourself, if you like, well, hang on a minute, not everything is rosy here. This is not how they taught us back in the other place. And then they were not telling you the truth too. But you can see here, they're not telling you the truth about the other side too. So you start to process things in your own mind. Obviously, when you're young, you haven't got a wisdom yet, but you're not blind. You can see the difference. If you're intelligent, if you've got ability to process yourself, and you come from a reasonably well-balanced background. And as a Catholic, I was a regular churchgoer. I wasn't actually, that was, to me and my family, was if you like, spite, you're not encouraged, there's no God, there's no this and that. And of course, the more they pushed us, there's no God, there's only comrade and Communist Party, the more went the other way.
Oh, okay.
So there was just
exactly.
As the old law of physics says, for every action, there's always going to be equal and opposite reaction, and there was our opposite reaction.
And did you? I mean, I guess when you arrived, you wouldn't have spoken. Do you speak any English at the time? No,
English. I only started picking up bits and pieces of Dr. Kildare, the American, yes, the American show. We got a black and white TV. Somebody actually brought it from Germany, I believe, at the time, because in Iron Curtain, luxury was, we certainly didn't have American colour TVs or whatever Americans had. We were lucky just to have a box, and we all stare like monkeys at a TV, And Dr. Kildare was one of those shows then. But we didn't actually spend that much time in front of TV or radio as a rule. And I'm glad I didn't. We were basically outdoor type, creating our own fun.
Did you go to school here straight away?
Yes, I did. Within, I think, first few days, actually, I went to register. Yeah, it was the end of Elizabeth High School days.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was quite interesting. Unknown to me, there's a whole lot of ethnic people there, all sorts. Italians, Greeks, German, you name it, good old Aussies. Some, I didn't even know who they were. They looked Dutch, I believe. Yeah, Dutch, that's it. And you can see all the different names, but you don't, at the time, I couldn't register who was who. You know, it just looked like. And then funny part was when we started playing sport. PE teacher said, do you play sport? Sport. And he showed me the baseball. Yeah, don't know much about baseball, but I'm sure I can throw the thing. You know, I was confident in that. And then obviously during the school recess time and lunch hour, you copy what others do. Some went to the rubbish bin and a cricket bat. Others went to the bare wall with a tennis ball and play handball. So that was a bit of a novelty for me. We played basketball most of the time, really, where I came from. That's just nature, as I said. We're hooked. When the basketball game is on, the whole city comes to halt. That's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing. It's a little bit like the VFL in the old days here.
Yeah.
When Victoria was playing the finals, the whole Victoria is up, VFL. And that's what it was to us. I was practicing shooting a hoop for hours and hours during my school holidays. You know, you had to be better than your next door neighbour, obviously. Otherwise, you're not good enough, if you like. So it was interesting in that sense. But soccer, yes, we played soccer, but I didn't know the word soccer existed until I came here.
Like a lot of Europeans.
Well, to us it's football. You know, you call it. Well, it's a German word. We say Fußball. You know, Fußball. And coincidentally, in school, unfortunately, I didn't study English, but I did study German. That was my chosen language of the day. I had an option. I was pushed or encouraged, in polite words, by comrades to take up the new language of the world, which was Russian. Yeah, right. Yeah, most of us looked at each other. Russian? Yeah, you got to be joking. So we all took either French, some took English, and I chose German because to me it was a lot of German tourists, and I saw the German then because of all the guest workers there now as the common, more actually used language of the day than anyone that I actually dealt with, even though my uncles were using English here. I didn't know that at the time because we didn't know too much about Australia until I came here.
When you were first sort of settling into life in Tasmania, what were some of the things that were most difficult or challenging for you to adapt to?
Oh, it was a cultural things. I immediately missed that a cappella singing. That was normal for us, absolutely normal. It doesn't matter whether you're, if you like, pro or whether you're amateur, but it's a normal thing to express yourself. Group, kids, adults, females, whatever, to sing is just perfectly normal, and often when I came here and no one there publicly, opened their mouth, and I couldn't understand that part. There was something that I was missing terribly because a cappella singing, it's a therapy, to be honest with you, looking back now. Recently I came back and my school friends all got together. We sat around a table. I actually got a video here. And you know what? We sat there, had a coffee, chatted just like we are here, and spontaneous singing came. Bang. And I just could not believe it. Even now, my hair stands up, as you can see. It's that part that you put on a back burner because you accept the fact that that's not part of the culture and you don't want to swim against the tide, as I say, But it doesn't mean that it's not within you. It becomes somebody, I don't know actually who, but I was told often, give me a child till the age of 12 and I give you back an adult.
Yeah.
And I was, by definition, adult then, because I was 14 and a half, nearly 15 at the time. So I was already set in my own way. I knew who I was. Historically, I was pretty informed because history, we didn't study what Australia studied here, or what I saw anyway in Australia. Captain Cook and onwards was focus. We studied ancient history from Egypt, chronologically right through to Rome, etc., and to the modern. And it was fairly accurate until we got to the Communist Revolution. Then he became one-sided.
When you first, was there already a fairly developed Croatian community in Hobart?
Yes, there was a club. I learned since then was pretty much the very early people who came here after 40s. And they were to drive. 2 or 3 people actually got together and realised there's a number of Croatian single men who were going, as my father put it, the further, the better. That was the motto of the day. Most people who came from Croatia wanted to get away from communism, the further the better. And Tasmania was consequently one of the places was ideal, particularly if you come from the coast, because you could see the resemblance, the sea, and if you're born on Brunei Island, you're not going to go and live inland somewhere. That's just not part of part of your culture, and you tend to stick with sea, and Tasmania being islands, ideal. I always liked Tasmania. As I say, I lived in Sydney for a couple of years, and for what it is, as great as it is, Sydney, I wouldn't swap it, to be honest with you. After a while, it's just too big, too much of you. It sucks too much of your time, your precious time, And when you sit down and calculate it, how much do you lose going out to work, out back? That's 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
No, I haven't got that time to waste. That's just me. That's the way I saw it. And also, if you live in one area, be it Homebush or, say, Bondi or wherever, you focus there. You go to work, you come home, you go to work. You've never been to the other side, literally.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's so stretched. Then I thought, no, Hobart, it's a city, it's a town, but it's not too big, and I always liked it here, personally.
What kept you in Tasmania?
Oh, my parents, my mother and my father, naturally, and I like Tasmania, personally. I like the fact that I could go fishing, I like the fact that I could go surfing, I like the fact that I could do what I want, and later on, when I became adult, there was a lot of issues of the nuclear potential between the superpowers. And it became logical to my way of thinking. I thought, if I'm going to be anywhere and there's going to be this mad world, hey, I want to be in a mad world down south, right down south. That's the only place that I felt safe, to be honest with you. And I always liked it down here. And my parents were of the same opinion. Both parents were here, and they're buried now here. So I guess we well and truly put our roots here.
What did your parents do work-wise when you first came here?
My father was in the building industry. One of the reasons why he wanted to leave Yugoslavia basically so much was that he never wanted to be a member of the Communist Party. And at construction site, he was always told, comrade, if you want promotion, you want to get somewhere, you've got to join the Communist Party. And being stubborn as he was, being proud, patriotic, Croat, he said, well, I'm here for my skills, not for my political beliefs. Otherwise, I'd be in politics. And that was the wrong thing to say. So that's definitely the wrong thing. As an adult now, I can see why. So he became a target. They said to him, well, you can have it your way, but in the end, we could call the shots. And that made it pretty much hard for him. There was no way he's going to get somewhere there. So he decided to follow the footsteps of his brothers.
And so what did he do when he first came here?
He actually got a job immediately. It was no problem. He worked, I believe, was a Royal Hobart Hospital Extension as a builder.
Okay.
Yeah, with a group of building. And then he spoke Italian. There was a secondary language to him because Zadar was under Italian occupation. He actually completed all his education in Italian, oddly enough. So to him, Italian was perfectly normal. Yeah, it's like to me English now. It's exactly the same thing. It is known fact that Croats assimilate very quickly, if I can use the respectfully assimilate word. We probably, with exception perhaps Germans, I don't know, who else is assimilated that quickly into Tasmanian within one generation? Croats have. We cross-culturally married. I married Italian. My uncle married a Tasmanian, brown, all the people. And this is all within one generation. First generation Croats who came here, they married local girls. And that's very common with Croatians.
And so do many people still speak the language here?
Yes, we do. I do. Constantly. I was brought up, and I believe personally that to know another language is actually good for you.
Yeah.
First of all, it's good for the mind because you're thinking in stereo, not in mono. And if you're going to be talking to microphone, it's better to talk on two channels than one. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to go into medical or scientific part of it, but those who study that do believe that it is better for your mind. Yeah. Because you're processing more.
Research on Alzheimer's that shows people who have second language that delays the onset of.
I'm of the personal experience that is better for you. I practice both languages, and I'm grateful to my mother, who was always adamant. She was always said, look, this is Australia, respect it. It's giving us everything what we got, but in my home, you're going to have my rules. My rules are you're going to talk to me in my mother language. Mm-hmm. And at the time, like most of us, when you're young, you basically... Yeah, mum, yeah. And then you, with your siblings, talk in English, naturally. But she will every once in a while remind you, she insisted. And you know what? I'm glad she did. Later on, you realise she actually did me a favour because I got involved in radio, and I, to this day, am surprised. I don't have any issues. I can go to Europe, I can go to Croatia, I can go wherever I want to, and most people complimented me recently on my Croatian that I still speak as the day I left, literally.
Talking about passing on the language, have you done the same with your kids that your mother did with you, try to make them...
I was previously in a cross-cultural language situation where my wife was Italian, and I was Croatian, and it was hard for both of us to decide which language you will use with children. Naturally, my mother always spoke to my children in Croatian, and both of them did acquire a fair bit of knowledge, including my autistic son. Surprisingly, he's actually one of the autistic children that probably knows more than most of the autistic children I've met. He had the capacity to suck up the thing like a sponge. He just... I guess that's a part of autistic character. Yeah. He actually does understand. You can tell him whatever you want, and he used to turn around and comment in Croatian. People say, what's he saying? And that was... it'd be fair to say that I did give him... they went to Croatian school. My daughter went to Croatian school. We had a Croatian school on and off. I don't want to sort of brag here, but I was behind for two... This is the third time, actually, I revived the school. And my wife, Karen, was a school teacher. So she taught the young ones. This is on a Saturday, Sunday weekend school, if you like, ethnic school.
You've been quite involved in the Tasmanian Croatian community.
Yes.
So how did that all start?
That started pretty much within a few weeks of arrival. I went to the club. My uncle took me there to show me where there's a soccer, because I was immediately asking, what's going on? Is there any soccer? Is there any basketball? Basketball in school, I found out, was pretty much non-existent. From my colleagues there were a couple of Croatian guys who'd been here 3-4 years before me, and they told me, nah, there's nothing here to do with the basketball. Okay, soccer will do. Yeah, so I said, yeah, there's a club here, and they just started, with the soccer, and they'll do me. And I went to the club with my uncle, and one of the guys actually came from Dubrovnik. Actually, he was, he was running the bar at the time. He said to me, "Do you play soccer?" I said, "Yes, but coming from Zadar, I said, basketball I prefer." And he said, "You'll do, you'll do." And he just laughed, and he gave me one of those jerseys. There was that somebody used, and it shrank. They must have boiled it, whatever it was, because it was woolen, and it shrank. And he said, "How big are you?" And blah blah. And put it on my back. Perfect, just for you. And that was it. From then on, I went to training. I went to everything. So that's how it started.
I want to ask you about your role as on community radio. How did that begin?
That is one of those things that I guess the war would be predominantly what triggered off the passion in me, because I saw number of lies, to put it bluntly, being portrayed and being stated everywhere about Croats this, Croats that, and I don't want to get into politics of it because I've never been politically active, nor do I really want to. And I'm a firm believer that most Croats were not politically really keen to get involved. Mm-hmm. Consequently, we don't have many politicians in Australia from Croatian background. Right. Sport, yes, but not politics. That's part of our makeup. Yes, I couldn't sit back and actually watch my family home. My grandfather's building being blown up by Yugoslav tank and army. And while they were blown on television, I saw the footage, the guys saying, "These are Ustashis." And I thought, Ustashis were the Second World War, or pre-Second World War group of people. Ustashi means you are a person that stands up, basically, to whoever. And I thought, why are you considering? Hey, when I was there, I was considered to be Yugoslav. When I was a young boy in school, I had to learn all this propaganda from communist parties, salute Tito, and given a little red booklet to encouragement to become, member of the little pioneers, what they call it, comrades and that sort of thing. And suddenly I'm here in Australia, but we all fascists, we all Ustashis. Mm-hmm. What? Why? And I could see the lies. You could see through it. You know it from your background, from yourself. So I wanted to go to radio. I wanted to actually do my share for the community. I wanted to.
So what sort of want to put the Croatian side of the story?
Well, exactly. I mean, apart from the fact that I like music and that I like radio, that I like being active, I was always, in some way active because I became the youngest committee member in Croatian community. I was only 18. I became the secretary of the soccer club. So there was just part and parcel. And I found that to be rewarding, actually. You're not the president, but as a secretary, you got to run around, register the players. You got to do this, you got to do that. You got to pre-season work, and plus during the season, you got to train. You got to be player, and you got to be the secretary. So
yeah, you've got to be pretty multi-skilled then.
It was good. It was a good springboard to what was to follow later on in life. Consequently, I was self-employed, and all these things actually helped. And I believe it helped with my language too. It gave me that. I've met quite a few people from other ethnic background who arrived around the same time as I did, and I met one of them. We'll mention name out of respect. And he's got an accent thick as a brick, to be honest with you. His English is actually at the level you would think that he's off the ship maybe 12 months ago, because he was too busy stuck in his little corner. He didn't venture out of his little comfort zone. And he's got an accent, you can almost carve it, with a chainsaw, and make something out of it. And I thought, no, I'm glad I actually didn't do that. I'm glad I went out of my own comfort zone.